With changing times, people are consistently searching to rest their hopes on a leader or a champion,
Imam Ali.
that stood up for justice, until this day has touched the hearts of so many.
Ali.
Could it be that from the sands of Arabia, at a time where most had thought that the entire world had been thrown into darkness,
Imam Ali.
that a leader, not just for his time, but for all time, would rise above injustice and oppression? And if so, who was he? What was his name?
Imam Ali.
The name which every one of his followers calls out to him till today.
We see Imam Ali as a very brave warrior in all his battles. Despite all the battles that he has participated in and the amount of wealth he could have collected and gathered, not only as a close relative of the Prophet, but in participation of all these battles, we see that he leads a very simplistic life, not one with luxuries, be it in the time of the Prophet or afterwards or even as a Khalifa.
You will find that the same personality, he is so humble that he hated arrogance. He was not in favor of pride and arrogance. He had so much humility, so humble he was. Before I proceed, I would like to say about Ali alayhi salam, I found, according to my research, you will find that all those good attributes you will find in Ali alayhi salam. Some people, some personalities, you will find that they have some good attributes, but they lack other things. They lack other good attributes. But it is this personality of Ali alayhi salam who is having all good attributes is combined in Ali alayhi salam. And whole of his life he is a role model for us. Whole of his life is a paragon for us. In the sense that, see, a part of him being so brave, and we had discussed about his bravery, about his strength, but on the other hand, you will find the same personality. He is so humble that once in his caliphate, while he was a caliph in Masjid Kufa, while he was delivering a sermon, all of a sudden a person enters in and he starts to abuse Imam Ali alayhi salam. He starts to abuse Imam Ali alayhi salam. And when he abuses Imam Ali alayhi salam is quiet. He was implementing the verse of Quran, إِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا, that whenever a person approaches you in an uncivil manner, you say peace on you, قَالُوا سَلَامًا.
When we look at the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, we find that he was not only a brave person, but he was a very humble person, a person who understood the reality of life, and a person who acted in that way. He was very warm and kind-hearted person, and we find plenty of examples in his life.
We have got another incident which took place in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam's caliphate, that when a slave girl comes to Imam alayhi salam weeping, in fact, Imam was passing by, and Imam saw that this slave girl is weeping. And Imam being the leader, Imam being the caliph of the time, Imam went to her and he posed a question to her that, why are you weeping? And she said that my master had told me to go and buy a plate of dates worth 1 dirham. I had bought for him and I sent to him. Now when I sent to him, he says that I don't want this dates. Go and return to the seller. And when I'm going to the shopkeeper is refusing to take back his plates of dates, and he doesn't want to reimburse me. Now what will I do? And she started weeping. Imam alayhi salam went with her. Imam said that, come, let us go to the shopkeeper. Imam said to the shopkeeper that, look, this is a slave girl. She's a slave maid. She doesn't have any say. Why don't you take back this plate of dates and give her money back? So this person, instead of listening to Imam, instead of at least answering Imam, responding Imam, he pushed the Imam by side. He pushed the Imam. And he didn't know that who was this personality. He was the caliph of the time. So when people informed him that, why have you pushed him? Don't you know that this is Ali ibn Abi Talib? He is Khalifa Waqt. He is the caliph of the time. When he was informed this, he was worried. He came to Ali alayhi salam and he apologized for his action. He said that, I apologize. See the humility of Imam. Imam forgave him, but Imam also gave him a piece of advice. Imam told him that, do know, I've forgiven you. There's no problem in this. I've forgiven you. But do not misbehave with your customers and treat them nicely and give them their full measure.
There was a time in his life when he was the ruler of the Muslims. And the Muslims were not only in Iraq or in Saudi Arabia or in Iran. The Muslim rule extended into Africa, up to Azerbaijan, in the south up to Yemen. So Imam Ali alayhi salam was ruler of all these peoples. And at that time, to show humble life, gives or explains to us that how he understood the reality. He was not arrogant at all.
One day, when he was Khalifa, he would walk on the streets and he saw an old lady. She was carrying some heavy bags as well as looking after some children. So after greeting her, he said to her, shall I help you? Do you not have somebody, a man who will help you do these? She said, no, my husband was killed and it is the responsibility of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Of course, she didn't recognize him. Imam alayhi salam helps her and then goes back home. In the night, he's thinking that there is an individual within his ummah who is not pleased with him. The next morning he comes back, he knocks on the door, he has bought some wheat for her. He said, Ya Amat Allah, I am the one who helped you yesterday. I have come to help you again. Do you need any assistance? She said, indeed, may Allah bless you. You look to be a very kind individual. Look after the children, and I will use this wheat that you have bought to bake some bread. And she does that. And then the next day, he helps to bake the bread while she looks after the children. And when he's doing so, he looks at the fire and said, Oh Ali, taste the fire in case anybody of the servants of God are unhappy with you. At that moment, somebody greets him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Assalamu alayk. This lady becomes amazed. Here is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander, the person who's in charge of the entire Muslim world, is serving her in such a way. She understands that he is a humble individual. He has reduced himself to the level of serving the people. She would come and apologize to him and says that I did not know that you were Ali ibn Abi Talib. At the same time, Ali said to her, if I have hurt you in any way, then please forgive me. This was the nature of the commander of the faithful.
And he says at one point that if you acquire everything of this world, and you remain pious and you do it in the way of Allah, then go ahead, do it. But if you acquire everything in this world and after that you haven't done it in the way of Allah, or you haven't done it for the pleasure of Allah, then that is something that you have indeed found yourself in loss, because you haven't found the actual salvation that there is. When we talk about Imam Ali alayhi salam, we see that in his own house, in the daughter of the Prophet's house, they had just one sheep of skin that they used to lay on at night to rest, and during the day they used to feed the animals and the camels that they had and the sheep that they had on the fodder from that skin. We know that not only him but his whole entire household practiced this simple way of life. They ate very meager meals, that he said that I would not enjoy even a piece of bread and salt and nothing more on it. He says, what does Ali have to do with these world's niceties and these short-lived pleasures? A man only who has transcended the realms of this world can understand that there is something higher and mightier and greater that awaits him. And like we constantly keep mentioning, that the love of Allah has brought this man to a station where all these worldly things mean nothing to him. Yes, indeed, you need to look after your physical body because that is a trust from Allah. And he continues to say that do not make on yourself unlawful that which Allah has made lawful on you. So yes, eat, but don't forget the remembrance of Allah. Don't forget your whole purpose. So whatever you acquire, remember that the possessions that you have, they should not have more worth than that which is with God.
By running his government in the just way, the way it should be done, Imam Ali was creating so many friends. So many people had love of Imam Ali, the local people, the ordinary people. But the people in high positions were becoming enemies of Imam Ali al-Islam. Nahjul Balagha is full of the letters he wrote to his governors. And he has given instructions about his governors. He has found out in one letter that his governor has been invited to a party. And Imam Ali al-Islam wrote to him that if you were not my governor, you would not have been invited to that party. By going there, you have become, you have shown bias. Or he wrote to one of his governors and he said, when you are using the papers from the treasury, write it in small writings, because this is Baitul Mal and we have a duty to the Muslim government, to the Muslim Ummah, that we do not waste resources. So there are so many things. He found out one of his governor had bought a house. There is a letter in Nahjul Balagha, and he said to that governor, he wrote to him and he said, if you had asked me, I would have advised you to buy a house in Jannah. So he was making himself unpopular with his governors, with the people who were materialistic, those who were amassing wealth, those people who were just engrossed in luxurious life. But for the public, he was the most just leader people could see.
Indeed, he was courageous. And indeed, he was the warrior in which the Muslims looked at and relied upon in many battles. In the Battle of Badr, half of those killed from the army of Quraysh were killed by the commander of the faithful. Yet this never affected his humility and his humbleness, simply because he recognized and understood the importance of these traits, these characteristics and attributes in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ali ibn Abi Talib was a manifestation and exemplified humility. He would go around and he was the Khalifa of the Muslim Ummah, and under his charge there were more than 50 countries, yet he would walk on the streets and in the markets seeking to help human beings, seeking to help people in all walks of life, lowering himself to that level. And when he came to Kufa, he was given or shown Qasr Amara, the famous palace, and he was said that you may reside here. He said, no, I will have a simple house, and today the house is there for people to see and to show his simplicity, the way he looked at this world. Why? Because he is Imam Zahideen, the leader of the ascetics. He would constantly say, Ya dunya ghurri ghayri qad talaqtuki thalatha. Oh dunya, go and deceive someone else. I have divorced you 3 times. La raj'ata ilayki. There is no more returns towards you. Why? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen recognized the short, transient nature of this life, and the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards those who consider the akhirah to be their eternal, ultimate place of abode. Of course, what and of course Imam Ali alayhi salam, together with the Ahlul Bayt, were individuals who demonstrated the need to practice sacrifice and altruism. In other words, place other human beings before themselves and the needs of others before the needs of themselves.
Imam understood the philosophy of charity because there are people who easily give charity when they have plenty. But you find rare examples of people who themselves are in difficulties but are ready to help the others, ready to do ithar, sacrifice themselves for the cause or for others. We have the example of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. We know the story that they are breaking or ready to break their fast, and the only food they have is bread. And when a beggar comes, or a yatim comes, or an asir comes, they are ready to give that to them. This is charity, knowing fully well that anyone who gives in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will receive more because Allah has promised this.
Physical kind of charity that he gave, that I can mention at least two instances. One is of an occasion when Tha'labi reports that he saw Imam Ali alayhi salam at a place called Rahba in Kufa, and he said that I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib with his feet on two heaps of gold and silver. And he didn't stop giving them out and shoveling them off to the poor and needy until there was nothing left. And he turned around and he went home without anything to his name.
If we take one example, in the Battle of Jamal, in the Battle of Camel, Imam Ali's side were asking why we are not initiating. Why are you stalling? Why are you not starting the fight? And Imam Ali's reply was beautiful. Mawla Ali alayhi salam said, he said, there may be somebody who may still be guided, who may still want to come to us. So let us give them the chance. He was giving them as much time as they could take. In the same battle, we find that Imam Ali alayhi salam was so kind to Ummul Mu'mineen. After the battle finished, he paid utmost respect, treated her with great respect. And that is what Imam Ali was. His charity is unparalleled. In fact, in Battle of Jamal, it came out, his kindness and his charity, when he actually sat down after the battle was over. Mawla Ali alayhi salam sat down, and history tells us that on the other side about 17,000 were killed. On his side 1,000 was killed, 1,000 people were killed. Imam Ali actually sat down and he started crying. Then he asked forgiveness from Allah for himself and his army, and he actually asked forgiveness for the opposite side as well. That's how gracious he was. He said, Allah, forgive them, because whatever they did not do it knowingly. They were not aware of the facts. And when he performed the funeral rites for his army, he did the same for the opposite army.
Also, there's another instant at the time of the Prophet's life, where someone gave a gift to the Prophet, 300 gold coins, and the Prophet turned around and gave them to Imam Ali alayhi salam and said, do as you wish with these. And Imam Ali alayhi salam said that I will give them away in 3 installments of 100 each. So he takes the coins with him, and after the night prayer he comes out and he comes across a woman of ill repute. And he turns around to her, he greets her and he says, here you go, and he hands over the 100 coins to her. And the people around him are not very happy with this act. and they put him down for it, they criticize him, and they say, why would you do such a thing? Why would you give it to a woman like her? But Imam Ali alayhi salam says nothing and walks away. The next night, after again the night prayer, he comes out and he comes upon a thief who is ready to loot another person, and he stops him and he says, "Here you go," and he gives him 100 coins. And again, the people sort of criticize him for having given the coins to a person who they don't think is worthy of charity. The third night arrives, and Imam Ali alayhi salam exits the masjid, and he gets hold of a rich man, and he hands over the 100 coins to him. Again, the people are like, we have no idea what Ali is doing, and he has no idea what he's doing either. And after this, he goes to the Prophet, and he says that this is what I have done. And the Prophet says, well, know, Ali, that Angel Jibreel came down and has said to me that Allah has accepted your charity in all 3 occasions. And the verse of Surah number 24, 37th verse of Surah number 24 alludes to this occasion. And we see what happened to these 3 people was that when Imam Ali alayhi salam gave the 100 coins to the woman of ill repute, she was blessed with the financial help, so she didn't have to continue in the business that she was in. And so she started a humble and a very modest life. The thief turned around and said, well, I've been enriched by these 100 coins, and he continued to, he stopped his bad habits and continued to live a humble and modest life as well. The rich man is the interesting part, is that when he sees that Ali himself has come to give him the 100 coins, he feels ashamed, and he says, well, what kind of a stingy person am I that Ali comes to give me money and I'm not even poor, yet I have no heart to give to the poor. So in all 3 occasions, Imam Ali alayhi salam, like we've constantly mentioned, in his knowledge and understanding has continued to demonstrate that he is aware of the divine commandments of Allah, and he can execute them in the best of manners possible.
And this is something that is demonstrated in the Quran, Amir al-Mu'mineen's charity and his benevolence and his sacrifice for the benefit of other human beings. This is a trait of the Ahl al-Bayt. Altruism and sacrifice were demonstrated in every instance in their lifetime. They saw the importance of other human beings' happiness over their own happiness. And it is a fact that is established in the Quran in chapter 5, verse number 55, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, إنما وليكم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. Your wali, the one with the complete authority over all your affairs, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the messenger, as well as an individual who is praying to Allah whilst at the same time giving zakat and charity. And historical narrations, both from the Sunni and Shia school of thought, point to the idea that Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullahi alayh was in the mosque of the Prophet, and whilst praying the salah, a poor needy individual comes and asks for some help, and the only individual, the only man who helped him was Imam Ali alayhi salam. When he gave him his khatam, his ring, took it out from his hands, and he actually gave it to this man whilst in the state of ruku'. The next thing was that the Holy Prophet informed the Holy Imam about the revelation of this particular ayah in the Holy Quran.
When he meets the brother and he's walking, and they come to the crossroad and turn, and he ends up at the brother's house. And then the brother says, well, I live here, you don't. And he says, no, I'm going back miles the other way. And he just walked. The charity of giving time, giving a smile. Yeah, and it's the one that we all give up first, you know, we're too busy. Somebody comes up asking for the price of a burger in McDonald's, and we snap at them. Go away, I'm busy. We don't see that with Ali alayhi salam. In fact, as in the case in the prayer, he's giving while he's still praying. We don't know what he's thinking about on the walk, but he's giving his time to a stranger, to see the stranger is safe, to keep him company. This is giving that's measured by its true worth, which isn't the quantity, but the spirituality of the gift. Imagine that you could have 5 minutes talking with Imam Ali alayhi salam, and yet he gave to someone just, we all think now, you know, that you've got to be a grand ayatollah or a great mystic to see into his discourse. It's probably true, but then again, may not be. But just a person he met on the street, walking, and he'd walk 2, 3, 4 hours, and one of the most precious intellects of his age. That's real generosity, that's real charity.
Imam Ali alayhi salam was truly charitable in his wealth, charitable in his time, and charitable in his knowledge. But did his charity and the nature of his humility fall merely upon those who had accepted the faith of Islam, or did it extend further to those of different faiths and different beliefs?
How did Imam Ali alayhi salam deal with non-Muslims? I think it is an excellent example for all of us to think, to reflect. It was not only instruction, but at the same time it was practically shown. In his instructions to Malik al-Ashtar, when he appointed him as the governor of Egypt, one of the things he told Malik was that do not swallow the non-Muslims like a beast swallowing weak creatures.
When it came to Imam Ali alayhi salam dealing with non-Muslims who lived under his rule, so we term a person who lives under Islamic rule, a non-Muslim who lives under Islamic rule, a dhimmi, and they pay the tax. Imam Ali alayhi salam in one instant tells one of his representatives who goes to collect the tax from the dhimmi who live under the rule, he says that when you go to them, do not take their clothes off them to compensate. Don't take any of their beasts of burden. And he says, I do not consent to you to even whip them for 1 dirham or to make them stand in the sun, which was a practice that they used to do to punish the people who couldn't pay the tax, is that they used to make them stand in the sun. He said, don't even do this. And the representative said, well, what if I return unpaid? And Imam Ali alayhi salam turned and he said, woe be unto you. We're not here to spread this. We're here for forgiveness and beneficence. So that is our aim and our purpose. So if he cannot pay, then he cannot pay.
So Imam Ali alayhi salam said, your treatment of the non-Muslims should be just. They are human beings like you.
Okay. Imam Ali alayhi salam dealt with non-Muslim with utmost respect and fairness. We find that he has said that if you let me sit on the seat of making judgments, you will find me that I'll make judgments for the Christian as it is in the Bible, or I will make a decision for the Jews as it is in Torah. So he says, and they will say that this is the fair judgment. So we find many incidences where Imam Ali has dealt with Christians or Jews in a very fair manner.
One day Imam Ali alayhi salam was coming towards Kufa. On the way he was joined by a non-Muslim. And they were traveling and they were talking. He asked, the non-Muslim asked, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Kufa. Imam asked the non-Muslim, where is your destination? He gave a name for his destination. When they arrived at the cross section, Imam Ali alayhi salam accompanied him. So he said, but the destination to Kufa is this way, the road to Kufa is this way. Why are you accompanying me here? He said, the Holy Prophet has taught me that when you are on journey with a companion, you must always go some distance ahead together with him before you return to go to your destination. You are my companion. He was a non-Muslim. This man said, I will accompany you up to Kufa. In Kufa, he came to realize that this is Amirul Mu'mineen.
We find incidences where Imam Ali has seen a old Jew or an old Christian man who was destitute, who was not being looked after. And Imam Ali alayhi salam actually said that, why do I see a situation like this? When this man was able-bodied, we all took advantage of his hard work. Now he is not able to look after him, we should be looking after him. And he ordered that the treasury should pay for his welfare. So we find many incidences like that.
There's another instance where he deals very amicably with a Christian who has taken his coat of mail. And he comes to this Christian and he says, he takes him to the court and he says, he stands alongside him and he says, this man has taken my coat of mail and neither did I give it to him as a present and neither has he bought it off me. And this man turns around and says, no, this is mine, this doesn't belong to you. And he says, well, can you bring any witnesses to say that this is yours? So Imam Ali alayhi salam turns to look at him, smiles and says, you're right, I can't bring any witnesses to stand up for me and say that this is mine. And so the matter is dismissed in the favor of the Christian who brought the coat of mail, and he's walking away and he turns around to look at Imam Ali alayhi salam. And when he looks at him, he feels guilty because it's not his coat of mail. So he turns around and he comes to him and he says, how can you deal with me in such a pleasurable manner when I have stolen from you a possession that's yours? And he says, well, you as long as you feel your guilty conscience, that is more important for you than the fact that you have stolen. What has preceded is that you have come away from that sin and you have come to apologize. And straight away he falls at the feet of Imam Ali alayhi salam and he says, indeed you are a man of God and truly you are one who has been sent to lead us. And he accepts Islam at that point.
There is an incident in history where they say that Imam Ali got the report that one of his soldiers actually snatched an ankle chain from a Jew woman. And Imam Ali was so distressed. History actually records that he rushed to the mosque. His abba, his cloak was dragging on the floor. He rushed to the mosque and he climbed the pulpit. He went on the mimbar and he said that today I have heard something which shakes me. That my soldiers have entered the house of a Jew and they have treated the women like that. And Imam Ali alayhi salam says that if the Muslims, after hearing this incident, if they die of shame and terror, it wouldn't be surprising, because this act does not befit a Muslim. So that is how Imam Ali was with the Christians, with the Jews, with the non-Muslims. Nobody ever had any incidents where they could complain about his fairness.
Imam Ali alayhi salam led his government on the way the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had led his government. We know that after the passing away of the Holy Prophet, there were many changes in the system of the Islamic government. When in the year 36 AH, Muslims came to Imam Ali alayhi salam and said that you are the only person who can rule over us, guide us. Imam Ali alayhi salam made one thing very, very clear, that I am going to run my government according to the Sharia, according to the way the Holy Prophet had set up his system.
The government of the Commander of the Faithful resembled the rulership of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in all aspects. Here we have an individual who was raised and trained by the Holy Prophet of Islam, who knew the Quran like no other. He would say to people, Ana al-Qur'anun natiq, I am the spoken Quran. Therefore, these 5 years that he used to say to people, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni, ask me before you lose me. And unfortunately, to our loss, people did not do so. People did not realize the importance of this great individual at that time.
So there was a lot of things that were not happening the right way. The rich were very rich and the poor were very poor. Imam Ali alayhi salam, 2 instances come to mind now regarding the Baytul Mal and the treasury of the government. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, this is the money of God. This is not something I have a right over. And his brother Aqil comes to him and says, well, you're related to me and I need a loan of you, so can you please give me some money from the Baytul Mal? And he says, I'm sorry, brother, but this is not something that is personal to me, that is mine, that I can give you of it. It has a haqq in it of other people, the people who need it more than you do. And he said, well, I'll turn around and I'll go away to someone else to ask for a loan. He said, you do that because I cannot assist you in this instance.
And what we have to remember is that the forces arrayed against him were not insignificant military outbreaks. You know, we can see that in the time of his caliphate there was almost constant wars of rebellion around the borders. Muawiyah sent Bishr to ravage and plunder down through the Hadramaut and the Yemen, killing, I think the estimate was around 40,000 people, burning all the crops, causing widespread famines, disaffections. Just because people had no food, nowhere to go, they had to turn to where they could get food, and that was under Muawiyah's control. Also the campaigns in Egypt were equally bloody. And the army that Muawiyah commanded was basically the smallish force of the Muslim army, but the whole of the Persian Empire's forces from that region. It's a phenomenal fighting force. So that Ali's leeway in government was extremely restricted, both by what those before him had set in motion that he was trying to undo, but also what was being maintained to the north.
When Imam Ali alayhi salam, he came to power, his government was, the period was quite short, it was 4.5 years. He had to fight 3 major battles in that period, and he had to establish justice. The government before Imam Ali alayhi salam, there was quite a bit of corruption in that. So he had to be quite severe to his governors. But his first instruction to every governor was that you should be merciful to people.
He would walk the streets in the bazaars and he would check if anyone needed any help. If there were any aged people, he would help them. If there was any tradesmen that needed help setting up their stalls, Imam Ali alayhi salam was always there, not as a leader, but a servant of Allah, helping another servant of Allah. And in one instance, when he was riding on a horse, people were following him around. And he turned around and said, what are you doing? They said, we feel pleasure at the company of following you around. He said, go about your own business. Use your time wisely. Don't do this because you can create a feeling of arrogance in a person. So I'm not but a servant of Allah, and that is what I'm here for. So don't try to praise me and make me praiseworthy. He said, I declare in front of you, after mentioning a sermon, he says on the pulpit of Kufa, he says, I declare in front of Allah and in front of all of you that are present, that I still have responsibilities that I haven't discharged to the people of this town. So how can you consider me to be applauded and praiseworthy? Please do not praise me or flatter me, because I'm afraid of the one who flatters me.
When he was told that you have to give more stipend to the Arabs than to non-Arabs, Imam Ali alayhi salam refused, and he said, everyone is the member of the Muslim Ummah.
This being embodied love, humility, charity and forbearance. In addition to every other quality a leader picked by God would be required to have to lead a nation. But the nation that he led still follows him to today, chanting his name, calling his praises, and willing to live under the rulership of the Prince of the...
When we study the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, was not only for his time, but was also for posterity. One of the things that we find the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam to be very relevant today is because of what he had said so many years, thousands of or 1,400 years ago. And At that time, people did not realize or understand what he had said.
When we talk about Imam Ali alayhi salam, when we talk about his life, we can never totally do him justice because we only know some apparent events from his life. We have a wealth of information from him, but that truly doesn't do him justice because who he was and what is conveyed to us through these traditions and through the words that we have doesn't truly signify who this man was.
There are so many instances in the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam where we see his devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where in one occasion Imam Ali alayhi salam would sit in the Masjid al-Kufa, and he used to just stay there and invoke in Allah, pray to Allah, supplicate in one of the most popular munajats called Munajat of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam used to recite this munajat so beautifully and humble himself and say, Mawla ya Mawla antal Mawla wa ana al-abd. What was this bottom line message that this servant of Allah was trying to give? He was trying to empower humanity and people of all clans, of all generations, of all tribes.
Whatever Imam Ali alayhi salam had said at that time may not have been relevant then, but is very relevant today. The other thing is his example, his way of life. And this way of life is a practical example of how a person can be humble, he can be powerful, he can be rich, but at the same time he can be very humble. And I think that the instructions that have been given by Imam Ali alayhi salam, especially the document that he gave to Malik al-Ashtar, that document, even the United Nations has said to the Arab world to study the document of Imam Ali alayhi salam as to how to rule and how to govern. And Imam Ali alayhi salam's example of governing the Muslims and how to apply the principles of equality and the principles of justice with the people, I think is very, very relevant today.
Imam Ali alayhi salam is somebody who is immortal. His teachings are immortal, and his judgment, his life history, his lessons, his akhlaq, we apply to it till today.
Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, he's not just for us Muslims. In fact, he is for the whole humanity.
It's difficult to sum it up in brief because I think I'm not in a position to, but there are people that can talk about him for a very, very long time.
Imam Ali alayhi salam is relevant today because he is a real leader that we can look upon.
Aliyah